Welcome to the C2C podcast. I am your host, Derek Anderson. After holding my first event in 2010, I went on to create Startup Grind, a 400-chapter community based in over 100 countries. Along the way, I discovered the greatest marketing tool of all time, your customers. Yet, I couldn't find anyone sharing how to build a community where people could experience your brand in person or at scale. On this show, we talk with the brightest minds and companies on the planet about how to build customer-to-customer marketing strategies and create in-person experiences for your brand and customers before your competitor does. I'm excited to have our next guest, Celina Zamora. Celina is currently a senior community manager at Atlassian, where she oversees their community events program in more than 150 cities for brands like Jira, Confluence, and Trello. She's had a career in various fields like advertising, education, and community building. Take a listen. Celina, can you describe what Atlassian does and tell us about your role there?
Sure. So Atlassian builds project management collaboration tools to just help teams become more efficient and more effective in their overall organization. We build products like Jira, Confluence, Trello, Bitbucket, and many more. Regarding my role, what I do is I help manage our in-person community in the Americas, specifically working with our user groups, which are now called our community events. So yeah, building resources, supporting their efforts, and just continuing to provide them insight on how they can be better on the ground. So we actually have community leaders that drive all of our events, and so I help manage and steer them, support them, and so on.
Community can impact so many areas of a company, and Atlassian has so many different products with probably lots and lots of different types of customers and users. But could you explain some of the positive impact that your community work and your team's community work has had on the product or one of the products?
Sure. So community has been really big for us. It started off a little bit apprehensive because people didn't understand the value, but now our product teams actually see it as a continuous feedback loop. So it provides them real-time conversations regarding product development and really allows them to dive into customer stories to understand nuances, best practices, and just drive more clarity around pain points that either they want to work directly with our leaders or our members and just have a general understanding of what we could do better. It just provides a higher level of transparency.
You all have done a great job at getting executive buy-in. I remember a few years ago at Atlassian user conference, the CEO was talking so glowingly about the community events program for the entire world and all of your developers and all of your users. And so could you just break down how you have approached proving the value of the community to the Atlassian executive team?
Yeah, so it was really cool about that. We initially started community with our in-person events. And so our co-founders actually were pretty energized about them. We even had our co-founders really interested in connecting with our customers on the ground because they saw it as an opportunity to just have that face time with customers that they didn't generally have. And, they understood the value of it, but, it was a place to provide a space for our evangelists to come together and share best practices. But regarding the evolution of that and continuing to maintain the value is where we actually had to adjust. And as we've grown, we gear it more towards highlighting the opportunities that provides for our company bottom line, as well as our annual goals and objectives. We also started to see a correlation between, our higher satisfaction and overall renewals with people who were involved in our user groups or now our community events, and also just overall retention with our products. So, as we continue to grow in that space, our executive team started to see, not only is it somewhere that we want our evangelists to exist, but it's also an opportunity for us to increase product awareness as well as our overall renewals.
Atlassian has so many incredible products, and you have had the community events program around the Jira product and the Jira groups and Confluence and some of the others. And more recently, last year you launched a C2C community for Trello. could you just share some of the strategy that helped make that launch what appears to be a success?
Yeah, so after we acquired Trello, it was really interesting because we started to see a differentiation between audiences within our Atlassian community events audience versus the Trello group. And what was really cool about it is that Trello actually had an established community already, yet it was more on Slack, and they ranged from non-technical to technical individuals. So for us, we saw it as an opportunity to bring individuals in and say, okay, how can we build a community that would be sustainable and substantial for them that we could scale at large? So after we got the thumbs up from Michael Pryor and he said, yeah, go with it, we ran a couple of test markets and we were able to actually email our end users, which wasn't always something that we could do with Atlassian end users from our different products. So we saw a huge response and we saw a different outcome in terms of the events that were provided. So we saw a huge, engagement. And with that, we decided to create a program that was similar to our Atlassian community events that focused on our other products. And from that point on, it's continued to scale.
The first time I ever met anyone from the Atlassian community team, one of the first things I saw was all of the metrics and the analytics and the tracking and just this sort of very granular and some of it was maybe not super sophisticated in terms of how it was because it was so manual and there was all these ins and outs of trying to track things, but like the level of depth was really incredible. And I wonder, what metrics today do you track? What metrics are really important to moving the needle for either the community or also the numbers to share that matter internally?
Yeah, sure. So from the in-person side, we really want to understand number of events and attendance, right? This helps us understand our overall footprint, if we are actively helping our efforts scale. We also want to see overall audience retention. Are we seeing patterns, drop-offs, boosts? What's driving those patterns? How can we better prepare our leaders that are driving these within those transitions? And if it's specific products that are driving an increase in response. So that way we're building content. So that way we're providing resources that are substantial for that. So yeah, event check-ins, events in general, and online, we're always looking for retention, MAU, contribution rate, support, goals, and so on. So it varies. We're evolving and we're collaborating even more effectively. So of course our analytics are going to look a little different, but those generally are go-to metrics as of now.
And are you able to track people attending the events or signing up for the events with actual sales or new accounts or expansion on accounts or retention on accounts? Do you have any way sort of track across community impact and the ultimately like sales impact or retention?
So really it's based on correlation of like surveys that we've done regarding our satisfaction score and overall retention. It's not, specific to it, but it definitely helps us understand that if someone is attending these, that there's a higher satisfaction rate and retention rate in our overall sales of products.
How do you look at growth? Do you try to expand into new markets? Do you double down on existing ones, or do you do something else?
Honestly, we have been, we're very big on building with heart and balance. That's one of our company values. And one of the things that we've recently seen is that since we're doing more online and in person, we're really trying to revisit how we're doing things collaboratively. So, growth for us really means meeting the customer where they are in terms of what platform they're using, how they're actually using it, and what industry, along with us aligning where our product growth and objectives are organizationally. So we're constantly thinking, what is our growth opportunities within community, and how are we continuing to align with our company's objectives?
I really relate to that sentiment and this idea that, look, everybody can't fly to New York or San Francisco for your user conference to get educated in person. And webinar or some sort of online training, in many instances, is just not going to cut it. And so why wouldn't you go to where the people are? Why wouldn't you make it easier for them to engage with your brand and your product and learn about it more? It's sort of, I think for some of us, it's sort of a no-brainer, but I think other people, they have a really hard time understanding it. I mean, do you have any insights on that? Like, have you seen people inside the organization sort of shift their mind towards where the CEOs have been or where the community team has been that maybe were disbelievers in the beginning? How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, before we actually used to have to kind of persuade people to take part in community from the product side, because it was like, bandwidth, like what's the opportunity for us? But then they started recognizing that this was a great environment to actually test their products, test the experience, understand, we could have road shows around, specific products that we're either going to have, that we're going to deploy. It's an opportunity to have more of that face time for them to gain those customer stories that they need in order to develop our products more effectively. Since we're a company of transparency, and also building with heart and balance, we have to keep that aligned with how we're using community as that communication source. So we've seen a huge shift within the past 3 years that I've been at the organization.
We always talk about groups and chapters in terms of active and inactive, and I think consistency is a really important part of building a community. How do you encourage your group leaders to stay consistent in the events and the programming that they're hosting?
So I think, there's 3 things that really, really drive consistency. Communication, transparency, and acknowledgement. Within communication, with our leaders, we want to really be transparent in terms of, hey, we feel you, we hear you, we understand what you need. And so we're constantly building resources to help meet them and their overall success on the ground. Since they are the boots on the ground for us, we want to make sure that we're supplying them with the tools to be successful. In terms of transparency, our entire company is about open company, no BS. So we are constantly trying to keep them in the loop of, here's where our company's going. If you are leading the charge on the ground for us or online, we want to definitely provide you with enablement tools to be confident in being able to be a part or an extension of Atlassian, because that's how we see our community leaders. And then acknowledgement, real special opportunities for them to chat with our product teams. We offer a community day at Summit where they get to meet with our co-founders, and then of course help their overall trajectory within their own role in providing like free Atlassian certifications and other special accolades.
We love to ask great community builders what communities inspire them, what communities they follow. Do you have any that you find are doing particularly good work and that you get inspiration from?
When I get this question, it's actually pretty funny because people are like, would have never thought that. But I'm a big fan of the Peloton community, just because I just really love the environment, the overall energy that they bring, and the way that it's a bit competitive, yet very much about driving people together. The only thing that I would say is that I'd like to see their community go into a different platform, aside from Facebook, because I'm not a big Facebook person, but I do like how they provide community into their product on a regular basis and how they encourage their members to be that much more interactive.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please leave a review wherever you listen to this. If you'd like to see more about how to create your own event community, go to bevylabs.com/pod. Again, that's BEVYLABS.com/pod.